Welcome into the Football League Papers podcast. My name is Matt Badcock. I'm joined by our editor, John Lyons, and chief writer, Chris Dunlavy. Chaps, how are we? Episode 3, we haven't been cancelled yet. All well?
Yes.
Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, all good, thanks.
I say, well, I've got COVID, but I'll battle on.
Oh, is that still a thing?
It's still a thing. Worse than ever for me.
Well, it's given you plenty of time to stay in and watch lots of football, though, I'm sure. So, we've had another busy week in the Football League, action-packed midweek programme. Maybe we start with Leicester this week, and in fact, the clubs that have come down. Not normally kind of used to seeing the clubs who come down from the Premier League almost picking up where they left off when they were in the Championship the last time around and having it all their own way, but not so much so far with Leicester and Southampton particularly.
Yeah, well, Ipswich as well. They've Kieran McKenna got his Manager of the Month award, didn't he? And then they went and lost 2-1 the spin and got whopped 3-0 off Charlton. So yeah, they're all kind of struggling. It's I don't think you can say it's one thing across the board. It's a strange sort of all I think Leicester are the highest in 9th, and I think you'd probably have to go quite a long way back to find the last time the highest relegated club was 9th after 10 games. But they're just, none of them seem to be able to quite get going up front. You look at the amount of goals Coventry are scoring, and that's the kind of thing you would be expecting from a relegated team, and none of that. That's the problem with it. If you look at Southampton, very, very not very fluent, struggling to score goals. Leicester the same. There's nobody really prolific in that side. Ipswich have probably got the best players in that aspect, but still they're really struggling to create anything. I've watched them a few times this season, and it's been kind of painful, really. They've created the odd chance, but I wouldn't say, if you go across their games, there's not been one sustained period where they've really looked a good side or really looked threatening in the top end of the pitch. So I think if there's one thread, that's it. But I think there's lots of stuff going on with the different clubs. But yeah, it does give the others a chance for a change.
Yeah, it's great to. I mean, it's the table is looking a bit unpredictable at the moment. You wouldn't have thought the likes of probably Millwall, Charlton, Hull, maybe even QPR would be up there. Obviously, Hull beat Leicester the other night, going well. So it is giving those other teams a chance, and it's very difficult to predict. Each individual game is very difficult to predict, and I think I was having a look earlier. Southampton are in 18th, but they're only about 6 points off the playoff. So any team that can string any kind of run together is going to be right in the melting pot.
Yeah. Do you think that's good for the Championship, though, that it is a bit different? Because we have kind of got, it does feel like there's this yo-yo parachute payment kind of, you got your parachute payments, that will sort of sort you out, yo-yo back and forth, and it was kind of, you keeping that sort of difference and having different clubs up there that we maybe didn't expect kind of, makes it much more interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think the money, it is nice. I think eventually the money will probably talk. I'd be absolutely astounded if 1, 2 or 3 of Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester aren't in the top 6 by the end of the season. But that said, Leicester have got sort of various profit and sustainability issues to contend with. So who knows what's coming down the line for them. But I think the money will talk in the end, but ultimately it's a head start, right? And it does give a chance to somebody who hasn't got that money. And I think we would probably do a whole podcast on the distorting effects of parachute money and why it's bad for the game. But it's nice to see people upsetting the apple cart and getting the better of it, really.
And I suppose the thing is as well, when we get to January, if some of those sort of unfancy teams are still up there, then this is probably going to be the chance where some teams are going to maybe throw a little bit of money at it and sort of think, well, we're never going to have a better chance to get to the Premier League, so we might as well have a go at it now. So this next sort of month or two before we get to the January window is going to be quite intriguing to see who can sort of stay in and amongst it, to put themselves in with a shout for that second half of the season.
Yeah, talking about Ipswich's defeat the other night to Charlton, which didn't maybe see a 3-0 defeat coming like that for the Tractor Boys at home. Although I was at Needham Market in non-league in the Southern League Premier Central last night. Needham Market against Bury Town, and Kieran McKenna turned up to open their stand as he'd had a commitment. So there's a lot of managers who would have just sacked that off, but McKenna was there to open Needham's new stand at their ground. So I thought credit to him, and he didn't just jump straight in his car and go off. He was there watching, certainly at the beginning of the game. So that's all credit to him. But Charlton are they're going all right, and Nathan Jones is a manager who wears his heart on his sleeve, to say the least. But he's certainly getting a tune out of them after their promotion as well.
Yeah, he's doing it again, isn't he? I mean, he's a good manager. That's the thing. I think there's, he does create a lot of memes and such, doesn't he, for what he does on the touchline, and he can. I think in some ways he can be a bit of a figure of fun because of that, but he's not. He's a very talented manager at the EFL level. It's not, other than I think there's pretty much any manager who manages Stoke has like a little asterisk next to them, because nobody succeeds at Stoke. It's just sort of impossible. But, take that away, and he's been successful everywhere. He does a really, really good job of just sort of galvanising a squad of players and organising them and just getting a team to play for him. That's it. They're just so... You watch Charlton, and it's the same as watching his Luton team. They're just, you can see everybody knows what they're doing. You can see everybody would kind of run through a brick wall for each other. And when you're that team, Charlton, I think most people fancy them to go down this season, and that's kind of what you got to do. I don't think anybody, as you say, people would have them fifth, but that's what Nathan's teams do, and they're very, very good at it.
Yeah, and what they probably don't have is they probably don't have any real superstars. Mm. But what they have got is they've got a very solid sort of team, and everyone works for each other, and obviously they've got their they've got their bits of quality as well, but you do get the feeling it's a real team effort. So maybe that's partly why as well they may be a little bit more consistent than sort of some other teams who maybe are on the whim of one or two sort of star players.
Yeah. Do you think he sort of, it's all credit to him that he's kind of gone back down and gone again, isn't it? But do you think he kind of gets unfairly tainted from that sort of Southampton stint as well? Yeah,
I think he does. And he probably needed to be better advised, because I've spoken to Nathan a few times over the years. I've watched him a lot over the years, and I think he is a very emotional guy. And at the end of games and things, I think he probably does need someone to put an arm around him and take him away from the cameras and let him calm down. And I think maybe at Southampton he didn't necessarily have that, and he had the full glare of the world's publicity on him, and it didn't reflect very well on him. I think it's a weakness and a strength, right? It's a weakness in that point, but I think that passion as well that he has clearly works on players. So it kind of works both ways.
Yeah. Talking of the full glare of publicity, let's come on to Wrexham, who have beat Oxford, didn't they, in midweek, won their first home game of the season in the Championship. Nathan Broadhead scoring the goal. It kind of, we've been so used to Wrexham winning over the last 3 seasons. It's been taken, it's been a bit of a kind of a different mindset maybe this year. But is this kind of, you feel like now maybe they're kind of getting going?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, they're a little bit of a sticky start, but I think with all the transfers and everything that they've had over the summer, there was going to be quite a bit of squad sort of rebuilding and stuff there. So it has taken them a little bit of time, and obviously they're up against bigger outfits than they've been used to being playing against in the last sort of few years. So I think that they'll probably be sort of, you'd expect them to probably sort of gradually improve as the season goes on, and obviously if they can get Nathan Broadhead scoring on a regular basis, and obviously Kiefer Moore as well, then obviously that'll give them a push in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Wrexham, I've written a bit about them this week, and I think it's kind of par for the course. If you look at Birmingham as well, I think they both came up, they both spent a lot of money, and everybody maybe expected them to be challenging for the sort of top 6 straight away and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, they're up against that it doesn't really matter. You're coming up into a division where every player's good, where every coach is good, where every team's got a lot of money, or at least most teams, and we're never going to just sort of walk away with it. So I think it's kind of just, I think because Wrexham, they get so much publicity, there's been a bit of focus on Parkinson and stuff. But I think really, if you assess them objectively, they're kind of, everybody sort of, a lot of pundits before the season said, this will be where the sort of momentum stops and they have to work a bit harder. And that's kind of exactly what's happened in my opinion. I think they'll, bit by bit, they'll get there, but consolidation, maybe top half, that's probably got to be their aim for this year.
Yeah, John, I mean, we talk about that sort of gap between the Championship and the Premier League, but between League One and Championship, that seems to me that's a big old gap as well, isn't it? Because like you say, the clubs that you're going up against week in, week out are just often in total. It's a lot of the League One clubs.
Yeah, that is probably potentially the biggest jump of a lot. I mean, you've got those players from that you can probably play, having your team in the squad in League Two. Probably a lot of those players can sort of make that jump to League One, and obviously a lot of clubs who are sort of planning ahead are thinking, even if they're in the National League now, they're thinking maybe will this player be good enough for League Two or League One, as probably Wrexham have done. But then, when you get to the Championship, it is a sort of different kettle of fish, and you do need a different sort of calibre of player. Obviously, there are some players who will be able to make that jump as well, and obviously they deserve that. They deserve that chance if they've helped the team to get there in the first place. But you're competing against huge teams that have come down from the Premier League, teams that have got buckets of money to spend. Apart from probably your club, Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, it's a different type of battle, really. So Wrexham, Birmingham, and Charlton, they've sort of settled into the division. I think as we were sort of talking earlier today, probably Charlton have surprised a few people by being top of those three teams at the moment.
Before it becomes like a big thing, should we just sort of get rid of this Wrexham and Birmingham being the Hollywood Derby? Why is that a Hollywood Derby? Why do people call it a Hollywood Derby? It's not Hollywood Derby, is it?
No.
Well, only one of them is owned by anyone from Hollywood, surely.
That's what I mean. So Birmingham aren't from Hollywood. I don't get it. It annoys me. But there we go. Talking of teams who come down and in the last sort of couple of years and trying to get back to that Premier League, and Sheffield United and obviously Chris Wilder back-to-back wins. Are they also now kind of sort of finding their feet under him and sort of getting back to where we'd expect them to be?
Yes, I would just say I've sort of said it on a few of the previous episodes, haven't I? Just you look at that squad and they can't stay there. The team was too good. It was too deep, too talented. Like it was never going to stay there. And I think might end up with egg on my face. Who knows? But I think you'll see them go now. And I think have they left it too far to be in the promotion picture? Who knows? But I think they're off and away now. Yeah,
I mean, they've got 9 points. The division's so tight. If they were to string 5 or 6 wins together, they'd be up there. Certainly going for the playoffs. I mean, it's such a wide open division this time that if there was a time for them if there was a season probably to have a bad start, it was probably this one, because they're still in they'll still be in contention with a few wins. So they obviously had that international break. So I think Chris Wilder said that they'd worked hard over that period, and obviously they've come back with a couple of wins now and they've got a bit of momentum. So it's going to be interesting to see how long they can keep that going now.
Yeah, definitely.
We did the old beers on the bus trick again. Remember that when he took over in League One, and they were struggling. I can't remember. Did they lose his first 3 games or something? And they lost a bunch of games when he first took over, and he basically stopped the bus on the way home from a game and piled into a service station and bought a load of beer. And then they just had a massive drink on the bus, and then basically after that they went and won League One. So
basically, this is maybe this is a thing. Where football's overcomplicated now. Maybe you just need to go on the lash, go kart and go on the lash. That always seems to be the thing as well, isn't it? Get the go-karting session booked in.
Well, long throws are coming back. Long balls coming back. Bring it back.
It's all coming back. We could get back to the. It's been an interesting debate in non-league recently because there's a manager at Step 3 kind of sort of bashed some of his players, his senior players, for like enjoying a beer after the game, which is, sort of kind of set people off in non-league. But
I think you might find that's why certain players enjoy playing at Step 3.
Maybe it is. But of course, you can hear about all that on our non-league Goalmouth show that we also got on here. So like and subscribe to that or this channel, and you'll get this podcast and that as well straight into your all your devices. So we'll move on now to League One, and talking of club legends like Chris Wilder, we've got club legend going in at Blackpool, Ian Evatt, as their new manager, and someone who's had great success there in his playing days, but an opportunity now for him to revitalise them as well.
Yeah, I spoke to Ian. Funnily enough, I spoke to Ian about 2 weeks ago, and then when he didn't have a job, and then I spoke to him again this week when he did.
Are you taking credit for him getting a job? Is this what you're sort of kind of saying?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe most.
What percent do you charge?
I'm just a good friend. Good friend for football managers across the land, Matt.
There you go. This is it. That's what they all say.
Yeah, exactly. But he was, to be fair to him, he was pretty good this week because obviously the sacked Steve Bruce, and he basically in the piece we've done this week he comes out and says like you can't blame Steve. It's kind of on the players. They've got to take responsibility for where they are because they're bottom of League One. And says a lot of nice things about Steve. Said a lot of respect for Steve. Can't blame it on him. Up to the players. You got us into this. Get us out of it. And that's kind of the long and the short of what he said this week. But yeah, he's a club legend, isn't he? He was there under Holloway when they went up, and I think he played every game in the Premier League that season when he went up. In that back three when they had the overlapping centre backs, which nobody had seen before at the time.
They started that trend.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he's pretty interesting to talk to about football. Like and I think he's gonna go in there. He's had a lot of success at that level. I think he'll know what he's doing, and the squad's good enough that they can get out of it. So I think they'll be fine with him.
Yeah, because I think the feeling was over the summer that they'd done some really good business and that they were going to be at the other end of the table. So it could be a good time to go in there. If he can have a look now at the squad, see what he thinks the strengths and weaknesses are, that you think there is a potential there for them to maybe start climbing up that table and get a bit of confidence and momentum going. So it's obviously a good game on Saturday for his first game because they're away to Peterborough, so it's the bottom two. So that's going to be really interesting game. It should be a big crowd at that one at Peterborough, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in that his first game back in the hot seat.
Yeah, Chris, do you think sometimes clubs sort of tactically plan that when they're bringing a new manager and they like look at the fixtures and like actually this would be a good one to kind of get you in because if you can get that first win, then it means you can kind of catapult on from there. You're not bringing them in before they're playing top of the league, are you?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, you see it all the time, don't you? You see it all the time. If there's a good run of fixtures,
yeah.
When
get the old game out and get the new guy in.
Managers looking at those fixtures, going, "Oh, finally."
If you were a manager, you wouldn't take a job until you'd look at the fixture and be like, "Yeah, I can't start until." Can't start.
Yeah. Although, would you not have it the other way as well, though? Like sort of take over against the best team in the league, and it's like a free hit, then, isn't it? So.
Yeah, potentially.
And also it depends. There's also been that new thing over, obviously, in recent years as well, where the manager comes in and if the game's a couple of days later, he says, "Oh, I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to watch it from the stands and then sort of take over on Monday." So that's something else that's coming. But I think Ian Evatt's come in sort of early in the week, so I'm sure he'll be taking charge of Saturday.
You can also if you do that, you can also do that trick of then like going down to the dugout to save the day.
Well, yeah, I remember an FA Cup game quite a few years ago at West Brom, and Tony Pulis had just gone at West Brom, and he was the watching brief from the stand. He's watching from the stands, and basically, I can't remember if it was 8-0 to West Brom in the end. It was something like that. But basically, even though it was that score, Gateshead popped West Brom off the park for about 40 minutes. They were just like, because Gateshead were under Gary Mills then, and they played total football, and they were just knocking it around Gateshead, and Pulis sort of came down into the technical area to sort of like waving his arms around, and I think Berahino scored 4 or 5 that game, and they went on and absolutely, like, it was, it was kind of a walk in the park, but it was that kind of classic. I couldn't be sort of, I had to come down and sort of put on these vital golden instructions that turned it all around. But who knows?
Well, we sort of know as well from speaking to managers over the years, various managers, that managers know their win percentages. A lot of them know their win percentages sort of off by heart. So if you can get a win on the win under your belt straight off, it's a nice way to start. You get an extra W there. It's a good one.
Yeah, I think football managers, they will come out of their win percentage, which is something that nobody else ever thinks about or ever talks about. Have you ever been chatting with your mates in the pub and been like, oh well, he has got a 37.8? You just don't. It just never happens. But managers know, and strikers know all their goals. If the strikers are scoring a lot of goals, they know every single goal, don't they? They sort of, if they're not having a great season, I think it's around sort of. But if strikers and managers, win percentages and goals, you can always rely on them. Talking of goals, Reyes Cleary, he'll be talking about that goal for Barnsley for quite a long time, won't he? That as an unbelievable strike from the halfway line for Barnsley against Bradford.
Yeah, it wasn't even the half.
That was.
Line, was it? It was further back.
Yeah, it was further. Yeah. Do you think you could?
It was pretty much from the semicircle, wasn't it? From the other side of it. So it was an incredible hit. I mean, I can't see how anything can beat that for goal of the season. We're only in October, because it was such power, and the way that it's kind of dipped down right underneath the crossbar. It was virtually impossible to save. So that was a hell of a goal, and we had some nice pictures of that, the celebrations for that goal in the paper on Sunday. So that was an incredible bit of technique.
Do you reckon you could kick a ball that? I don't think I could kick a ball that far. I don't think I could even find the goal from that distance.
I could kick it that far, but it would like be rolling along the floor for a very long time. Or it wouldn't be anywhere near the goal.
I'm talking first bounce.
If that doesn't win goal of the season, it's going to have to be something extraordinary to beat it.
Yeah, it was just a distance one. It was amazing.
The distance, yeah. We've seen a lot of people doing it from halfway, or maybe a fraction more, but that was maybe sort of 10 yards further back.
Yeah.
Did Josh Windass win it last season for his goal for Sheffield Wednesday against Derby? I think it was.
I don't know.
Season for last season?
Probably had some points deducted from the voting system or something.
Probably somehow they were, some sort of vendetta against them, I would have thought. But yeah, have you ever seen a halfway goal score from the halfway line in live?
Ooh, that's like the bingo.
I saw one or two. I remember years ago, Brentford, Paul Evans. He was a bit of a sort of a long range specialist. I saw one or two of his ones. They were pretty spectacular.
I honestly don't think I have. It's like goalkeeper goals, isn't it? It's like the sort of bingo list of things you see live. But that genuinely, I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of a halfway line goal.
I've seen two. I've seen two from the halfway line. Both in non-league, and I think it was David Bridges at Stevenage a few years ago against Crawley. The year Stevenage won the conference under Graham Wesley. He pinged one in from the halfway line. And then I saw one in the National League North playoffs where it was Gateshead against Bratley, and Gateshead had just scored for right before half time, and there was literally no time left for the kickoff. So the Bratley player just pinged one, and it just went straight in the top corner. It was unbelievable. It was in COVID, it was an empty stadium, so it was a bizarre one. And I've seen a goalkeeper score as well. Again, National League playoff final. Lucas Cobland, Torquay scored a header. Have you seen a goalkeeper score?
I've seen a goalkeeper score, yeah.
Who was that?
It was Senny Dieng for QPR.
Sunderland. Yeah. Was that the first of the season? It was early in the season.
It was early because Alex Neil. It was the season Alex Neil left in sort of end of August, early September. But yeah, it was a winner, I think. It was the sort of 90th. Obviously, I mean, why would the keeper be there if it wasn't the 90th minute? But I think it was either an equaliser or a winner. I can't remember what it was.
I've sort of, it's burnt in my mind because I remember that John Lyons was John. You were on holiday. You were on holiday. I remember we were in.
Yeah, I remember I was on holiday at that time because it was a bit of a gift of a front page story for you, that one.
Yeah, just fell into it like. Yes, Eddie Dieng, good stuff. You can't beat that sort of thing. Let's look into League Two, and there was a big signing at Barnet this week, wasn't there? Of I think some of those pieces you did in the summer, Chris, about the PFA PFA sort of training camps that they do, and the sort of like long list. And I think I saw his name on there at one point. Britt Sombalonga signing for Barnet. Great signing for the Bees.
Yeah, crazy career he's had, isn't it? Like when you think it sort of feels like yesterday he was Middlesbrough's record signing. I think he's still Middlesbrough's record signing now. I think at 15 million quid when they got him from Forest, and that was 2017. So yeah, he had a spell with. So he started off with Peterborough, didn't he? And then he had a great season with Peterborough. Then he went to Forest, scored a ton of goals for Forest, and then he did. I don't know. Can you remember, John? Was it his cruciate that he did, or he did something? He had a really serious knee injury.
I'm not sure.
And then he came back and had a sort of decent season for Forest, and then Middlesbrough bought him. But I think the injury always affected him in one way or another. And then he had an absolute nightmare at Borough, really, because he went in there and he was, a Sombalonga. He was a sort of striker who liked it in behind. He liked crosses, that sort of, he was a player who liked it on the floor. And then literally about 3 months after he joined Borough, Tony Pulis came in and started bombing it at him. And he just wasn't that sort of player. So it never kind of worked out from it, Borough after that. But yeah, I mean, technically he's a fantastic player, great finishing. It's just kind of where he's at physically. He's been in Turkey for 2 years. So where he's at physically, where he's at with his confidence, that sort of thing. But I mean, I think if he could even approach the levels he was at sort of, 8-9 years ago, what a signing that could be.
Yeah, I think the way Barnet play, the kind of the chances that they create, and the way Dean Brennan wants his side to play, that's where I think if you're a striker, they're the sort of teams you want to be in, where you're going to get those sort of chances. So that could be
and he got off to a nice start the other night, didn't he, against Cambridge, because he got a goal, and I think he got an assist as well, and they won 3-2. So that was he's off and running. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he gets on obviously in the up and coming league games.
Yeah,
I'm saying he's only 32, so it's not like he's not over the hill. He's still sort of theoretically in his peak years as a striker, really. So
yeah, that's the thing, is that we sort of we write players off for numbers these days, don't we? But Chris, you're just saying there about sort of a player not fitting in with a manager's style, and probably can sometimes forget sort of how important that is. And you look at someone like Harry Anderson at Colchester and playing under the Cowleys there, where he's been, he's played for him before at Lincoln. I think even had a loan spell when they were managing at Braintree early on in his career. And sometimes sort of players and managers just fit, and he's flying. Obviously, he's got a hat-trick against Harrogate at the weekend. He's flying for Colchester and Danny and Nicky Cowley there.
Yeah, and I love the quote from him, or from that Danny gave after the game on last Saturday against Harrogate when he got his hat trick. I've just got it here. Danny sort of said it was his moment today, and he's so humble. He had the match ball under his arm, went and spoke to the boys and said, "My first career hat trick," and then a minute later, I have another chance to get a fourth, and I sky it into the crowd, and I think I'm back.
I'm back.
So it was good while it lasted. It was good while it lasted. So he's got his hat trick, first half hat trick there. So that's great. It's he's first career hat trick. So it's one for the quotes, one for the end of the year. I think that one. But yeah, it's great. And Colchester have hit a bit of a roll at the moment. Obviously, they won at Grimsby. They beat Chesterfield 6-2. They'd had a bit of a slow start, and I think we were wondering, well, what's going on at Colchester. But now they've they've hit on a bit of a roll. The goals are flying in, and I think probably the good thing for them is the goals are flying in from quite a few different players as well. So I think they're still about mid-table. So we're going to have to see if they can actually. Is it just a blip at the moment, or is it going to be something a bit more continuous that they can do?
I mean, you know the Cowleys as well, don't you, Batters? I mean, I always feel that once they really need to get a club rolling, you know what I mean? It can take them a while, but once they get it going and get everyone buying in, it's so dangerous.
Yeah, I think they're so good at doing that. They're so good at kind of getting in under the skin of a club, and it does take a bit of time. But once they get going, I imagine it's really annoying to come up against as well. They're just just their teams, because of the way they're so organised, the way they play, the way they kind of approach games. It just saw it Lincoln, like first interviewed him at Concord years ago, and thinking, well, that wasn't a usual sort of interview with a step. I can't remember if they were step 4 or step 3 at the time. I think they just gone up to step 3. I think that wasn't a usual kind of interview with a manager like that. But you see how they've gone into clubs, and like Braintree, they went in, turned them into a winning machine within a season. Then went to Lincoln, and obviously achieved what they did there. And those sort of maybe higher up hasn't quite worked out for them as they'd hoped at Huddersfield, and obviously they spell at Portsmouth as well. But once they get into a club, this is a local club to them as well. They are Essex boys, and that can go a long way as well. And I do feel like you're saying, John, they're mid-table. I feel like they win every time I see them. They win. I'm like expect to see them higher up the table, but they're kind of obviously getting there gradually, aren't they? But
I just hope we haven't jinxed them now. We haven't jinxed them now for the weekend.
That's that. So don't put them in your EFL fantasy team this week, Chris, because you've had a good week this week, so you don't want to drop it down. I think you top scored this week, I think. You did all right.
First one. Remember though, there's a game at night, so don't get caught out by that one again.
Oh, I didn't realise that. But talking to managers who've done very well. I know, John, you've spoken to Derek Adams this week for a piece in the FLP. Can sort of outline what you're chatting to him about. Obviously, that Morecambe experience, I imagine, features prominently.
Yeah, it was quite funny when I rang him and spoke to him yesterday, because he was just saying to me that he was on a LMA. He was a guest speaker on an LMA diploma course, and he was doing a Q&A about the challenges of being a football manager. So it was kind of an obvious one to say, well, you couldn't really have anyone in better to talk about the challenges of being a football manager than Derek Adams, after all the aggro that he had to deal with at Morecambe last season. He had obviously a tough year there with the transfer embargoes, wages not being paid, the club almost going out of business. A takeover saga that went on for years, and sort of became a bit farcical by the end of it. And I can't remember the name of the guy. Was it Johnny somebody that was interested?
Johnny Cato.
Sorry?
I think it's Johnny Cato.
Yeah. The mysterious Johnny Cato has got involved as well. So it was all happening there. So it was good to speak to Derek, because obviously that was a job that many people wouldn't have wanted to have, touch it with a barge pole. And he stuck it out there. He said he easily could have walked away. He decided to stick it out there. And obviously when the takeover came, he was sort of sacked the following day. And that sort of he didn't really have any arguments with that. He's been around long enough to know that obviously new owners will come in, they'll want to bring their own people in and stuff. So he didn't really have any argument about that. But he's obviously, that's a couple of months down the line now, so he's keen to get back in. He's hoping to get back in at League One or League Two level, and obviously without sort of trying to get 10% of his next fee for getting a job, he has had 4 career promotions. He's had a couple with Ross County, one with Morecambe and one with Plymouth. So managed more than 750 games. So hopefully he'll get a chance to come back in. And I think what he'd like to come back to is a club that will give him a chance to compete at the right end of the table, and he won't have to worry about off the field situations and scenarios.
I always think it's funny when people go in, do the I'm not knocking qualifications. Obviously, you do need them, but people go away and do their A license or their pro license and teaches them all this stuff, and then you end up at Morecambe, and you're dealing with like fictitious buyers and people not getting paid and all that, and like it's just, it bears no relation, I would assume, to the things that you've actually learned. You know what I mean? It's a completely different skill set you actually need.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things he was kind of sort of saying to me, that he could pass on to the up and coming coaches and managers some real life experience of what it's like. So yeah, that'll be in the paper in the Football League paper on Sunday.
Sorry, well, there you go. And if you're a Football League club looking for a manager, get onto agent Lyons and he'll put you in touch with his client, Derek Adams, for his 10% fee. He charged far more than Chris. Chris doing it for free out of the goodness of his heart. But we've all got to eat, John. So it's fair enough. It's fair enough. What else have we got to look forward to in this week's FLP chats before we wrap it up?
I've spoken to Ryan Leonard at Millwall, who were absolutely flying in the Championship. Third under Alex Neil, who I think, again, I could do a whole podcast on how good Alex Neil is. I really rate him as a manager. Ryan, he's been around a long time. Basically saying how he was talking up some of the younger players. Actually, he was saying like his job now is to kind of guide them and help them through. He's talking about Tristan. Is it Kramer or Kramer? I've never actually known how to say his name, the centre back. But
I think it's Kramer. I think.
Is it Kramer? Yeah, Tristan Kramer.
Yeah,
so well, he was basically saying that he thinks he's, in fact, Alex Neil himself said he'd been the best player this season, and Leonard was saying the same thing. He thinks he's been the best player of the club this season, and talking up Mikhailo Ivanovic as well. So yeah, he basically just talking up all the young players at the club and what a great start they've had.
Yeah, as a dad at gymnastics where I take my daughter, and he's a Millwall fan, and he sort of kind of didn't quite know what to make of it when I was talking to him yesterday, kind of how well they're going. It's brilliant start for Millwall. As you say, all that to look forward to in Sunday's paper. Lots of action as well from all the games, all the leagues, and everything back up and running after the recent international break. But appreciate it, chats. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for liking and subscribing to this video and this podcast as well. We really appreciate it, and this YouTube channel. And we will catch you next time.